The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello and welcome to another edition of our program, CHW in Action. As always, CHW stands for Community Health Worker in Action because me, I'm Rafael Calderon. I am a community health worker, which is what CHW stands for. And I'm always in action to bring you the community of Nashua and all of New Hampshire and anywhere where this TV show is watched to bring you health education on how to live a healthy lifestyle. And as always, I like to mention that to me, health is not just about avoiding an illness or to treat an illness. It's about living a full, balanced life, right? And to have a full, balanced life, you need to have a way to find solutions to your problems so that those problems don't cause stress, and that stress doesn't invite other symptoms into your life, and you end up having physical reactions to your stress. So how do we avoid stress? We find people that can help us find solutions to our problems. And that is why today I'm privileged to have Sonia Prince with us. She's a community activist, and she's a specialist in helping people find solutions to their problems. So let's say hi, and let's welcome her. Sonia, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
You know, I told you when we first spoke, I had been seeing your name in meeting notes and so on and so forth for years. And I never met you until, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great.
So you are quite well known.
I'm a little bit involved in a lot of different areas. As a community activist, I like to seek causes that people need help with, whether it's social justice or healthcare issues. Sometimes it's immigration. It can be help, like this summer, helping a gentleman kick off the first Latino Fest in Nashua. Different topics. I'm all over the place, but I really like helping people.
Nice. And what motivates you to want to help people?
I think what goes around comes around is one of the mottos I like to follow. So I think if you help others one day, if you need something, they'll also, help you one day. It's a community. It's a sense of community. Everybody needs help at some given point in time. I think when you help someone, it gives you and them peace of mind. So I'm a relationship person, so I don't like seeing people suffer for any reason. If I think I can fix it, I'm going to try to fix it. Sometimes it does consume a lot of my time and more than I should, but I definitely enjoy that. I was raised by parents who were activists as well in their own way. One was really strong on bilingualism, the other one was strong in education. My dad was very strong on helping special needs kids. So I guess it's kind of in me a little bit from historical purposes. I had a grandmother who was very strong on fighting against sexism. She was very modern for her time. So if I think back, that's probably where it all came from.
So it's in your blood.
I think so.
Okay. And how did you end up here in New Hampshire? Because I know that you're from Canada, or you have Canadian heritage. Tell us about that.
Correct. So I'm from Eastern Canada, New Brunswick. I am Acadian, so I spoke French. But my town was bilingual, so it was very easy to pick up English. So since the age of 5, probably, I could read and write in both. My parents lived there their whole lives. They're still there today, and my sisters and my brother. And then after I finished university at Université de Moncton, I went to Louisiana to teach French to the Cajuns. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that history, but the French people. Yeah, so the French Acadians in the 1700s at one point in time were deported. And it was awful. It was like a religious battle. And the French wouldn't abide by the Protestant religious laws. So they burnt their villages. And some of the families were able to hide in Canada because of the natives. The natives took them in because they were good people. They were just farmers and living off the land and fishing. And when that happened, a lot of them did get deported. Some of them sent back to Europe, some of them down the Mississippi River.
Wow.
And the problem is, along the Mississippi River, Maine took some, and other areas took some along the way, but there were just so many boats going down that there were too many. So at the end of the Mississippi River is Louisiana. So they ended up taking most of the French people from eastern Canada and northern Maine, and they were good fishermen. So that's why there's a lot of French people still there today. The language survived miraculously just by speaking, because they didn't know how to read or write. And then you have a lot of Haitians there too, so their language is strong there. Yeah.
I've heard about New Orleans, and I've heard about Cajun or Cajun from that area. Is that where that comes from?
Yeah, Cajun is kind of slang for Acadian. You can say Cajun in French, or Acadien, Acadien. So it's a little bit of slang there, yeah. But it was really fun. I was able to teach French in an elementary school and got to know their lingo also. You know, as you move around the country or other countries, the language changes dialect-wise. So yeah, it was interesting.
And how did we get so lucky to have you in our area in lovely Greater Nashua?
Well, my husband's from Maine, and as I said, my parents are in Canada. Louisiana was 30 hours driving time.
That's a long time.
From Canada to Louisiana. So I did that for 3 years. I became very allergic to the weather over there. A girl who comes from the Four Seasons doesn't do too well in a summer, all year round place. There was a lot of pollen and mold. So by the 3rd year, I was quite sick. So the doctors pretty much said, you need to move up north where the Four Seasons are. So it was an opportunity for us to settle down, raise a family, be close to our parents as well. So
very nice. So like I said at the beginning, I've been seeing your name forever, but I hadn't had a chance to meet you. So you're involved in many different activities within the community of Nashua. And we know some of the same people. We were talking about one of them a few minutes ago, Mr. The Honorable Harvey Kai.
Harvey Keys, yeah.
Oh,
I love
Keys,
Harvey.
he likes me to call him Kai. He's my mentor.
Maybe he's playing with us both.
He likes to play with people. Okay, he's known for that. How do you know him?
He and I were on the Democratic City Committee together. He was our chairman. I was the event planner with a couple of other people. And we got to become really close. I got to know him a little bit about his history, very impressive. Now he's seated with the New Hampshire State for, I forget the exact title.
I know he was a former state representative.
Yes, but he's gotten a new, it's kind of an award type position, not for heritage or, I forget, I'm sorry. But he does have a title that Governor Hassan actually nominated him for, and she had asked me to write a letter of reference, and I'm forgetting the title. I apologize.
No, don't, because I didn't know. See, he doesn't tell me everything. He is my mentor, and he tells me, Rafael, you need to do this, 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 and that. And then I find out for people that I know through him or that we know, well, Harvey does this, and Harvey does that, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he's a great person to know. He's been involved in a lot of different things in the community, but definitely a leader, definitely a doer. He gets things done. He comes up with some great ideas, good for the community.
Indeed. You're good for the community. So tell us more about you. Tell us about what you do. I know you like to help, but give us a little more details on how you help people.
I do. I guess I never imagined I'd be an activist. I kind of did my own thing until I had children. And then life was kind of good, depending who the president was at the time. But at one point, we were going into the war in Iraq in 2001. And that really upset me. I think having children changes you. You worry more. You wonder about their future. And I was thinking about all the people who they had sent to war. And that really bothered me. So they had a protest in front of City Hall in Nashua. So that was my very first public protest type event. So I showed up with a stroller with 2 babies. And I said, "Stop the war," or something was on my stroller. I had a little sign. And somebody from the Telegraph interviewed me. And then after that, I had a friend who worked for the BBC. His name was Ian Himes. He was my neighbor, and he had a studio out of his home, so he'd do our live radio shows in the middle of the night. One day he said, "Oh, you know, I think according to your political views and healthcare and things like that, and how you don't like money in politics," he It's like I heard a gentleman named Barack Obama speaking in Boston at the Democratic Convention. I think you'd really like him. You should look him up. So I did. I watched the YouTube video. I was like, oh my goodness, this guy really has a lot of the same values that I share. So I said, I hope he runs one day for president. And then I think a couple of years later, he threw his name in the ring. As soon as I heard, I quickly looked him up and wanted to volunteer. I'd never volunteered for anything in politics in my life, in American politics or local. And that was my first campaign. And since then, I've been helping candidates up and down the ticket, even city aldermen, some Republicans, some independents, mostly Democratic, depending on what the goal is of the accomplishments we desire. But it's definitely according to my values, obviously. But it's been fun. I volunteer as much as I can, sometimes more than I should. But I think in the end, if you're passionate and you believe in certain values and you want better health care costs or coverage, et cetera, whatever it is that motivates you, you should definitely jump on it and try to do something, because one person can make a difference. That I've learned.
I agree with that 100%. Out of the many things that you do, and I'm going to ask Sonia about this, not a professional.
Okay.
Out of the many things that you do, you help people in financial guidance, but I'm talking about just common sense stuff. See, I'm working on this project. I call it How to Create Your Ideal Lifestyle by using a Wheel of Life philosophy, which I took my personal experiences and I named it Rafael Calderon's Wheel of Life philosophy. And part of it is that I talk about financial literacy. But to me, I only know what I learned from people that I help, whether it be by interpreting for them or by advising them on how to manage their money better, but I know very little things. So as a community activist, what ideas could you share with people about how to learn to pick up knowledge on how to handle their financial situations?
Well, especially when you're young, the biggest thing I cannot stress enough, and I wish a lot of kids and students could learn this because it's not necessarily taught in school, is that it's best for you to save as much as you can when you're young and then let that money grow. So maybe the first 7 years of your life, from age 22 to age 29, put away, I don't know, $400 a month when you start working. And you do that for about 7 to 10 years, and then you can stop. And that should be a good enough amount to grow, to keep you going, because when you retire one day, you need to take care of yourself for 30 years on a fixed income.
Right.
So I would love to see kids learn about compound interest. We teach about things like that. My kids are just learning about it now. I think they will be way better off financially than most people because I'm teaching them young. And I do wish they would teach it in school, but they don't. So I'm doing what I can. But I guess we never think about our future when we're young. We just think, oh, we're invincible. We don't need healthcare. We don't need, kids aren't thinking about that stuff until something happens. And then it's too late. So the biggest thing I think for advice I would give someone is try to cut back until you have quite a few $1,000s in a savings account, because you sleep much better at night when you have a few $1,000s sitting in the bank account. If there's a medical expense, a job loss, anything, right? Life goes like this, right?
Yes. Yes.
Your car breaks down. As soon as you get ahead a little bit, something else happens. You spend a day in the ER. There's just always something in life that's going to happen. So if you anticipate that happening, that life's going to go like this, putting away, $5,000 or $10,000 if you have a home and children would be ideal. I think a lot of people would sleep better at night. And sometimes, obviously, people struggle with income. Minimum wage is very low. It doesn't always keep up with inflation and the cost of living. So, if they could find a way to get a better paying job, to move into, I've helped people look for better jobs, which is not in my job description at all. But I do. We were talking about a case just earlier. If I see somebody, is really trying, I'm like, hey, have you thought about trying to apply here or there? Because I kind of know what wages they pay in entry-level jobs. And then maybe you can work your way up, because certain companies will move you up to a better position. If you're doing a good job and you're willing to learn, they'll train you.
Very, very nice. So the best financial advice is start saving early so that you don't have those money issues as you grow older.
Right, and then the savings account, just bulletproof your family with the savings account. You will sleep much better at night. So
See, this is information I can use.
yeah,
Because you know that my dream is I want to open up this Latin American center where I can teach classes, workshops per se. I can teach the youth and families, well, the whole family, the youth, the parents, to prepare for a better future. Because at least in my community, my Hispanic community, is like we live day by day. And our main goal seems to be just to get a good job and play it safe. And then, like you just said, life happens. And when life happens, we get set back. I've been trying to change that for years. I think that if I have a place where people can come to these classes and I make these classes fun enough, I think that people will come. And if I get that going, then you should come in and talk.
I agree. I mean, not that I could come in and talk, but I agree with you. Those classes sound interesting. The more education you put out there, the better. I guess if you think about it, if you're just working and surviving, what happens when something bad happens, right?
Exactly.
Then you're destitute. So, just getting by all the time is kind of a dangerous place to be. And that's where I'd love to try to help people get ahead with education. I think your classes would be wonderful. That would help a lot of families, and hopefully they will pass those values on to their children like I'm trying to do, right? I wasn't the best example at doing everything right financially myself. We were kind of paycheck to paycheck all the time and doing okay, but I think, wow, I have a degree, my husband has a degree, why are we still struggling, right? But nobody really took the time to sit us down and explain us a simple system of how to get ahead. And it's really not that complicated. You have people like Susie Orman and David Ramsey and people like that who are teaching exactly that, but I don't know that people are paying attention or have time to follow.
I don't know. But you know who I pay attention to? The guy that wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, something like that.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
He had a line of books. He came up with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I actually followed those, I guess, his suggestions.
Yes.
And that's how I got my first home. It was an investment property.
Wonderful.
Those things actually make sense. When you listen to most of them, I have a sister who's crazy with Susie Orman, and I listen to her. They say about the same things. It's about investing. It's about saving. It's about looking into the future. So I guess the more information you have, the better.
Yeah, I think if I were to do it again, we bought a single-family home, and I was a stay-at-home mom, so that made it a little tighter. That's why I think we were paycheck to paycheck all the time. But that was by choice. I wanted to stay home with the children for a while. But I think if I were to do it again, I would have probably purchased a multifamily home, like a 2 or 3 family unit, taken landlord classes. The reason is it's a way to build a little bit of wealth and safety at the same time. Because, if the roof leaks, there's 3 units, only 1 roof, right? So it's the same cost as if you bought a single family and live there yourself, but there's no income, right? So you can be a landlord, bring in some extra income, pay off your mortgage quicker, and one day if you decide you want to move out of there, if the house is paid off in 15 years, you can leave and move into a single family home then that you prefer, and there's still income coming from that home that's paid off with the 3 units, or you can sell it if you don't want to be a landlord anymore. I think it's a good footing for people to try and get ahead financially. If they want to be a stay-at-home mom or something like that. I just like that idea. I haven't tried it, but I know people who have, and they've been very successful.
That was my goal. My plan was eventually I wanted to move out of my house, rent it, and then get a studio for myself, and basically have that house pay itself off, be at the studio until I can buy another property, and then keep doing this, and that. But I did not have financial literacy. So when that whole thing happened in 2007, 2008, I'm one of those people that wasn't such a good thing for. But those things teach you a lot. They taught me a lot. So that's why now all that I do, I try to help people, I try to be useful so that people don't go through what I went through due to lack of knowledge.
Absolutely. There's nothing like the best example. I'm sure all of us have made financial mistakes and will never make them again because it hurt financially, right? So as long as you're falling forward and you've learned something, it's never too late. I mean, I had a gentleman in his 50s, and he was renting, had his business, and moving him into a home that had multiple units actually saved him because he wasn't putting any money away for the future, and he was really behind. So
Wow.
he may have suffered quite a bit if that didn't happen. But it's never too late if you think outside the box. If you have people who are willing to work hard and change their personal situation, usually there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way.
I agree. So what dreams, what visions do we have for Sonia?
So many.
Feel free to share.
I guess I worry a lot about what's going on in the world today. But that's a big, heavy burden for anyone. So I can't handle that on my own. So I'm hopeful that some of our leaders will do the right thing in the future. But as for Nashua, I think my biggest worry for Nashua is our school systems, our school board, how it's functioning, who may or may not be replaced in the next election. Privatization, I think, is hurting us. It's bringing up the cost for education per child, and our classrooms are getting bigger. I'm a little worried about everything that's going on with our schools, so I think I'd like to concentrate on that and try to help whoever it is, the city or the people who are trying to improve the school systems. I'd like to help out with those things as of locally, and I'd love to see the train come in. I know we've been talking about that for 10 years.
I would love that too.
It's been 10 years. We've had great strides and then roadblocks. So I don't know at what point it stands right now. There was talk of privatization in the sense of companies that were willing to invest instead of getting help through the state or the government, federal government. So I don't know where it stands at this point.
That's interesting. I know. I want to see the train come in too. And I tell you, I've seen the new mayor, Jim Dunches, doing a lot. Him and his staff doing a lot to bring that train. I attended a few meetings. I'm like, what can I do to help? Because I think that if we can get that into Nashua, it would open up so many doors of opportunities. You see, I want to know how I can help.
I agree. So maybe we should call Jim Donchis.
We should. We should get our phone and call him right now.
Yeah, I have it, but no.
He's a cool guy.
He is very nice.
I've met him a few times. The reason why I'm asking about all these things, financial literacy and stuff, is because I have a youth program, and we went to an event this summer. I'm trying to remember. It was I think it was the African, or not African American. It was the Black Caucus meeting or something like that. I know it was an African American organization.
Is it the Black OBU
Yes.
outreach?
There you go, Black OBU. Excellent organization. They had an event on the Greeley Park.
Yes, I remember that day.
Were you there?
I couldn't make it that day. I was in Maine.
I went there with some of my kids, my students. Well, actually, I sort of met them there. And he was there. And I was surprised. He came over and started talking to them. And I'm like, I know that mayors are supposed to be in tune with the community and stuff like that. But he actually went and started speaking with the kids and having an actual conversation. And to follow up on that, I said, is it okay to bring the kids to the city hall someday so they can see how the city works? He said, okay. So he actually had the kids over.
Wonderful.
I mean, he's a really cool mayor.
Yeah, he's very nice. He's very kind, cares about the people, cares about our schools. So I'm hoping that he'll be able to do something to help the current situation improve. When he was mayor 20 years ago, the schools were fantastic. We had won best city to live in the country.
I remember seeing that because I didn't live in New Hampshire then, but I remember seeing that.
My husband and I used to joke around that it's because we moved here, but that's not the case.
That might be true.
No, we didn't have kids at the time. And I wasn't teaching in the school system, so no, that's not it. But we joked about it, yeah.
Which, then since you know him, right, you and I and him should sit down and talk about this Latin American Center. I need to see this Latin American Center in Nashua.
Absolutely. I know a few other people who might be interested in the Latin community that could possibly help out.
See, then we need to talk more on that off the air because what I'm trying to do is get people that want to take action and do stuff. And
I agree.
I've been looking I haven't found that many of those, but maybe you know people or different people than I know. So that's my dream. That's my goal. I want to know what your dream is. Maybe I can help you make it happen.
I have my dream. I mean, I have healthy children. I have a job that I love. Very supportive husband. I volunteer. I give back to the community. I just want to see systems improve around us that will help people improve their lives. I think it's difficult to watch people suffer. It's not
Yes, it is.
one of my favorite things. I was a little isolated in Canada. There wasn't a whole lot of extreme poverty there, so when I moved to Louisiana, it was very difficult to adapt. It took me a little while to realize what was going on and to accept that, wow, people do live like this and it's terrible, you know, and somebody needs to do something, you know. And I remember the teachers down there were not well paid. They were paid less than $20,000 a year. And I kept thinking to myself, how do they get by? But most of them said, oh, well, you have to have a husband. If you're married, it's not as hard. And I'm thinking, so you have to have a husband if you want to become a teacher to live?
Not the best reason to get married. Eh?
Right. So I'm like, that's not really motivating to become a teacher, right? If it doesn't pay. Plus, you need a 4-year degree, and the cost of college today is outrageous.
Yes.
So back then, obviously it was years ago, but still, for that time, it was still low. So they had a strike going on in Baton Rouge at the state capitol. And none of the teachers wanted to go because they were so afraid to lose their health care benefits. They were afraid that they'd get punished or fired, and some of them had pre-existing conditions. And that was an eye-opener for me in the health care system. So I went because I had a separate health care system because I was a temporary J1 worker through Canada. I had a work visa. So I was still covered through Canada. So I said, well, I don't have to worry about that, so I will go on strike for all of you. So I marched over to Baton Rouge that day. We drove a couple of teachers and
Good for you.
held a sign. I don't know if it helped, but
I'm sure it did.
maybe.
So you see, you like to help people. So now, if you had someone with a situation regarding immigration conditions or situations, are you connected with the USCIS, the U.S. immigration system? Or do you know lawyers?
Not necessarily connected. I do know some lawyers. Often they don't really have to go to a lawyer unless it's a really complicated problem or they really don't have anyone to translate for them when they go in. But you can go to INS and Bedford, which is great. You used to have to go to Boston. And you go in Bedford, and they're very nice, and they're kind, and they'll give you all the information you need. So I have taken some people there before. Just they were too nervous or scared, or they didn't know what they were doing. And they'd call and say, hey, can you help us? What should he do, or what should she do? And then sometimes just, if there is a particular problem that is fair and just and you need help, often I tell people, call your legislators. They're elected to help you. If it's government affairs and you're having an issue and it's not fair or not okay or there's, a problem, and it's not being solved, you need to call the legislators. So I've learned to not be afraid to pick up the phone anymore and call the congressmen, the senators, whoever, the aldermen, the state reps. You need to call someone and see if they can get on it and help you with your situation. Because in the past, it's helped quite a bit.
Interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Ah. Now tell me about Facebook, because that's another way that I saw your name a lot. So you like Facebook, you do a lot of stuff on Facebook. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I kind of think Facebook is brilliant for marketing, sharing values, passions, ideas, business, you name it. It's there. It's inexpensive. It's free, right? You can buy ads and things like that to publicize events. But it's a great way to get in touch with the masses quickly. I helped a few business owners set up their pages, and a few state reps set up their pages, and all of a sudden they got 500 hits in 3 days, and nobody knew they were running, or things like that. It's just a great way to publicize anything you're trying to get out there, whether it's a message about politics or just a party, a celebration, a festival like OBU at Grilly Park. It's a great way to get the message out quickly and invite people without having to make the call and bother them in the middle of dinner or whatever, so they can see it on their own time.
Okay. So give us an example when you promoted some event from you or someone else. I know you helped these guys set up pages and they got all these hits.
Right.
For you, something that has helped you accomplish your goals.
Well, my goals are personal goals are pretty simple. I do workshops, so I would post a workshop there. But like helping the Latino Fest this summer, trying to get as many people going or knowing about it, because the first time event in the summer when there's a lot of people on vacation, it's hard to get a hold of people in the summertime. So we managed to get quite a few people there for the first time on that weekend, which was a difficult task. I don't know, there's so many accomplishments in the sense of causes that I work for, whether it's, you know, trying to get people to the State House for a protest or, you know, fighting gun safety regulations. I'm passionate about that, for background checks. It made it a lot easier for me to get the word out quickly.
Okay. And tell us about an example of you getting involved in social justice, something that you were able to help someone with or people with in that department.
My latest cause, I guess, is gun safety. I don't mind that people have guns. I grew up with guns, mostly for hunting purposes when I was young. Everyone in Canada had guns. It just wasn't an issue. However, they had much stricter regulations. Here you have background checks for gun purchases at gun stores and gun shows. However, if you're a private person who wants to sell a gun, you do not need a background check in New Hampshire. So you have a gun at your home and you want to sell it, you can post it on Craigslist, you can post it anywhere and sell it in your driveway, and it's perfectly legal. So if you're a criminal from another state looking for a gun, New Hampshire is a great place to come buy one privately.
Wow.
Because nobody's going to run a background check on you. So that's becoming more and more dangerous, I believe. It was last summer, I believe, in Mass and Maine, there were 5 people shot, and all the guns had been purchased here.
Wow.
So that was very upsetting to me. And then what upset me even more is when they had to start putting locks on all the doors in the schools and invest money in all our schools for safety because of the Newtown shooting in Connecticut. So I feel like we're a statistic right now. There have been mass shootings in many, many states, and New Hampshire is one of the few that have not had a mass shooting yet. So I feel like statistically we might be due. I'm hoping that we have put things in place that will prevent that, but it does worry me all the time.
That worries me too. It does. So how can I help you with that?
There are different causes and movements you can join. I'm with Moms Demand Action for gun safety. You don't have to be a mom. You don't have to be a woman. Anyone can be part of the
for
group.
me, I couldn't.
Right. No, you could. So we have lots of men
Okay.
who are members who believe in the same. It's just about believing in the cause, and the cause is we want background checks for everyone, not just public sales, but private sales as well.
So if someone, sorry to interrupt you, if someone wanted to sell the gun privately, how would they, let's say, request a background check for the person that they're selling the gun to if they're doing it privately in a parking lot or something like that?
I'm not sure if there's an app for that, or there are places where you can get background checks done and register the purchase. I'm really not sure how you do that, but I'm sure there is a way. Another organization who also, well, there's so many. There's Gabby Gifford has her own organization in Texas. Every Town is a Newtown group from Connecticut. They also have a group who promotes gun safety. But I'm not sure exactly how you do that. I've never sold a gun to somebody privately, so I wouldn't
I heard
know.
that you sold plenty of guns, Sonia, and like 5 or 10 a week. I'm only kidding.
I'm not surprised. Nothing surprises me anymore. I was totally in on that.
Tell us about what is your point of view on healthcare?
I think because I work with people's budgets, on a pie chart, your healthcare bill should be a certain percentage of your bills. And if I see that that pie chart has this big part of their debt or payments going out in healthcare, that really scares me. And the problem is not everybody is covered. It's supposed to be the law of the land that everybody does get covered eventually with the new Affordable Care Act. But still today, there's still people who are not covered. And I think the prices in the last 15 years, I'm thinking back of when I first moved to New Hampshire, it was affordable and reasonable, our monthly payments. But then they have since almost over doubled at this point, and that's a little ridiculous. So when I talked about that savings account earlier, if people don't have at least $2,000 sitting around at all times, a lot of times you go to emergency visit, it doesn't cover the whole thing, or if you have a deductible or a copay, things like that, it adds up, even if you do have insurance. So I feel like people are struggling to get ahead because of the cost of health insurance, and I'm not sure that privatizing healthcare is a good idea. When it's a need for clean water, healthcare, breathing clean air, I don't think the profits should be astronomical, like some of the companies are making profits on sick people. If you were trying to sell this chair, that cup, or that table, or that television, it's not a necessity in life, right? You need health, you need education, and you need clean water and clean air. So I think objects can be sold at whatever profit they want. I'm all about the free market and making as much profit as possible, as long as the market, absorbs it. But when it comes to necessities, you need healthcare from the moment you're born until the minute you die. So I think it should be affordable for everyone, and maybe a tax-based system.
I agree with you 100%. You do all these things, but your family always comes first. You told me that first you do what you need to do for your family, then you plan for everything else. So tell us a little bit about your family.
So my family, I have 3 children, Gideon, Brennan, Andre, 3 teenagers, which was pretty interesting. But they're pretty good, Teenagers can give you a hard time sometimes, but my kids are pretty good kids, so I'm pretty proud of them. They're all unique in their own way. One likes to run marathons, the other one likes to work in this kind of field. She likes editing videos and working in the studios. She loves music, she's in the band, she plays the flute. And Andre is my little actor and soccer player. He likes pretty much everything. He's just a happy-go-lucky kid. And my husband is a surveying engineer in Nashville, and he does really well. And he likes to coach. He won Soccer Coach of the Year a couple of years ago in Nashville, the NYSL, so that was pretty fun. He's a good guy, and the kids love him, and he's got really good ethics when it comes to fair play and things like that.
So you have a very well-balanced life.
I try. Maybe not this week, because it's the week of the holidays.
Welcome to the club on that.
Yeah, you get your bad weeks, but in general, I try. Like, I'm very big on not overscheduling the children. They want to do everything, but if you join a sport or a particular activity, sometimes it's 5 days a week just for one activity. So when they were young, I would try to keep them at like 1 or 2 things a week, 1 or 2 practices or games a week. So I wouldn't like pick something that they had, the whole week was gone, they never saw their friends, and they only had time for homework. So I try to teach them to have a more balanced life so they can fit in fun things on occasion, or volunteer work, or time with their friends, a day to go to the beach, and things like that. So
Very nice.
I try.
Are we planning to go back to Canada to visit as a family sometime, or do you do that often? Or?
Once or twice a year. We prefer to go up in the summer because the weather is treacherous in the winter. We joke around that we always seem to hit a storm on the way up or on the way back, and it's kind of like a white knuckle trip. People are in the ditch, and you're hoping your snow tires are in really good shape to get through the trip, or you crawl there and it takes you 2 days instead of 10 hours. But yeah, we try to go. I mean, my parents are getting older. I want to spend time with them. I want them to get to know my children so they don't see them that often. So it's a little difficult living abroad. I don't know if you have family abroad, but I find it a little hard.
It's very hard. My parents are still back home in the Dominican Republic.
Okay, yeah.
And they come every year so they can see all the kids. We all live in different states, but we all came to Lawrence, Massachusetts. So although the city has changed a lot, when my parents come, they want to be in Lawrence. So all of us kids come from different places into Lawrence. Part of the reason why I stayed in New Hampshire after my military time was done, it's because I know that they would be coming to Lawrence, and I could just drive over to Lawrence instead of going back to Connecticut, which is where I used to live, right? So, and they, thank God they're healthy, but they're back in another country. So if I want to talk to my parents, I have to call them or wait or go down there. So it's very difficult.
Yeah, I do worry about,
yeah.
if they get sick or something's wrong. I can't just be there in an hour.
Yes, yes.
I need 10 hours. So,
It's
yeah.
one of my ultimate goals is I'm going to have a home here in a warm place so they can come more often. Because that's one thing. Once they retired back there, it's a it's like a paradise climate-wise. So they don't like to be here in the winter. It affects them in more ways than one
Yeah.
because they're aging. See, so my goal is eventually I'll have a home in Florida or someplace like that, so they can come for months, and then I'll find a way to get all my brothers and sisters over there so we can all be together when they want to be here, without having to wait until the summer every year, because they don't want to come during the winter time.
Yeah, it's hard to adapt when you're used to warm weather. They feel it's much colder than what we feel.
Oh my God, it's really something interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, have you been to the Dominican Republic or any warmer place?
No, actually. Funny story. We were planning on going there for our honeymoon. The tickets were bought and everything. And we had called immigration because I was still on a visa at the time. My husband's from Maine. So we're like, what should we do? Should we get a fiancé visa and get married here? Or can we go to Canada? And she's like, oh, no, go to Canada, the immigration lady told us. So we booked the whole wedding in Canada. And then 2 weeks before the wedding, we call just to make sure everything's fine because there's a lot of rules and regulations. So we call and we say, hi, it's us. We're getting married in 2 weeks in Canada. We talked about this. When we come back, what's the procedure to cross the lines? She said, you can't leave the country for 2 years. And we're like, what? So, yeah, one thing I have learned, sorry, immigration, but every time you call, sometimes you get a different answer to your questions. So now I learned that if you need something from immigration, you call 2 or 3 times and see what the average of the answers are to see if you're getting the right answer. Because, it's hard for them to keep up as well, but the laws change all the time. So the questions are probably unique all the time. So it's probably difficult to train their people to know everything. But yeah, we had to cancel, thank goodness.
Oh,
we
wow.
had insurance on that trip because they wouldn't let me out of the country for 2 years.
Imagine if you had gone and then you were married and couldn't come back to be with
Right,
your husband.
I'd been back in Canada.
So wait a minute. So then, honeymoon-wise, did you guys go to someplace special, or did you guys just?
We went to Maine. There was a little golf resort down there, the Somerset, I believe it's called. We found it because we had to report to immigration right away.
Wow.
So we went to Boston and got a hotel, which wasn't very fun because we had to go through, stacks of paperwork, and there were interesting things that we read. Like I used to joke around saying, honey, did you know that if I get in trouble with the law, it's your fault? You sure you want to do this? And then, he'd take a nap and I'd read for 2 hours, and then I'd take a nap and he'd read for 2 hours. It was interesting. It wasn't what we had planned, and we were pretty jealous of thinking about being on the beach in the Dominican. However, we did, in that newspaper in Boston, we found the Somerset place and for the weekend, so we decided to drive over there, and we did some horseback riding. We did a few interesting things. It was a lot of fun.
It sounds like fun.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, when my book makes it big, when I have my Latin American Center and I'm creating income for it, I'm going to fly you and your husband over there.
It would be lovely.
Have a second honeymoon.
Oh, thank you. It's still on my bucket list. I do like to travel, so hopefully I will get there someday.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. So now you do a lot of stuff in Nashua, but you also do a lot of stuff in Manchester. So you work in different communities, so you help people in different communities.
As much as I can, I guess. I get referred to people. One time I had to drive like 2 hours north to help a lady with a problem, but yeah, I guess I know a lot of people. Resourceful, I guess. It's not always that I can help them, but I might be able to know someone or introduce them to someone who can help them with whatever issue they have. So if I can, I will. I don't always have the time to travel like that, but I do what I can.
Okay. And what is the best way to reach you?
Probably Facebook is the best way. Private message me there. I have too many phone numbers to give out. I'm not a good person about checking voicemail. I really dislike voicemails.
Really? Why is that?
I think it's just in the morning I check my emails, which you could spend hours there. I have 2 emails that I check, a work one and a personal one. And then I try to get that out of the way. And then I check my voicemails, and that takes a few minutes because I have 3, the home, work, and personal. And then I just feel like it's one more thing I got to check all the time. I think a quick text message or a messenger on Facebook is something I can look at really briefly when I have the chance versus if somebody tries to call me. It can interrupt either my work or help or volunteer. So.
Okay. Is there any cases that you're working on right now? You don't have to give names or details, but anything that you're working on right now, helping someone in the southern New Hampshire region, since you're all over the place?
There's a gentleman I was helping with his work visa. There was kind of a glitch there. And it wasn't very difficult. It's just they don't know who to call and how to get the help, or they don't always necessarily, and they speak English, but not enough to get by on technical words, so they just need somebody to help them, a little bit of hand-holding, they would say. And then I help families with insurances and things like that, so I try to teach them the importance of having insurance and for the what-ifs in life when we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Along with the savings account, insurance is one of those necessary evils. If you don't have it, you're going to end up paying more eventually when something happens. So.
And that's something that I'm trying to get into people's minds, is that we think about the moment. You think, I'm fine now, I don't need anything now. Then when something happens, then we're not prepared, and then that sets us back so badly. It's just a matter of preparing, to think about the future, to prepare for the future.
Yeah, it's bulletproofing your family, I kind of call it, in case, right? You try not to have it absorb your whole budget, right? It has to be affordable, but that's what I try to do. I try to find things that are affordable for everyone and help them in any way I can.
You said that you were going to help me with my business.
I am.
So tell me how you're going to help me.
I'm very good at helping with business plans, marketing. It's not necessarily my job description. I just do it because it's the right thing to do. I feel like if you help people, what goes around comes around.
I agree.
It's good karma.
That's what I'm trying to make points with God. Let's put it that way. Not just because of the points, because it feels good. I feel like I'm being useful. It's purpose to my life. So that's why this business of mine is all about getting this center going. And I keep going back to it because I want to pick your brain.
Yeah.
Because I want to find a way to make it happen. All these things that you just mentioned, that people may, even if they speak English, they may not know the technical words or what have you. If you speak to most people in Nashua, well, most Hispanic people, based on the ones that I've met, they have needs, they have issues, and when they go to the, let's say, established organizations or what have you, those organizations are there to help, but they will help up to a certain point, and then they have nowhere else to go. And I mean, that could go on and on and on, but I just feel that if we had a place where people could go, and like you, I don't know everything, I would probably spend most of my time connecting people with other places and organizations, because I want to start the center, right? But I want it to be an inclusive thing, where everyone in the community can be part of it. But I tell you, it's been a bit of a challenge. So I'm trying to find out, I'm missing something. And that's why I'm seeking knowledgeable people like you.
Usually the first thing everybody's missing is money. So
Well, I was gonna say,
fundraising is the
yes.
number one biggest challenge for any organization. I guess if your group could come up with some kind of a, not a business per se, but an activity that brings in income that would pay for the center, whether it's bingo night or you're selling a certain product or you have a certain evening that maybe it's food sales or a festival or anything that could bring in some income to make the center self-sufficient. I know I'm looking at a big scale right now, like for instance, Savers, right? It goes to autistic causes. So the autism group has this great franchise size, group that's bringing in money, and it's donations. People donate their products and they resell them to make a profit, and it goes to the nonprofit. So if there was a way for you to find a way to make a product or sell something that would help bring in money or have big events that would bring in money, it would help your organization. I look at other organizations around, they have their yearly big events and it's a big fundraiser. It would be like events and sponsors and things like that to help grow your movement, and then have the funds to have the location.
I have something, some type of a product. It's a motivational video that I've been I've been producing it, and my plan is to release it on the 23rd, on Friday.
Oh, very nice. Right? Congrats.
Thank you. So the plan is to, I don't want to say sell that program, but to make it available. Because in my work as a community health worker, I come into a lot of people's homes, and I see the need, and I think if this person had a more balanced life, if they had more knowledge or access to more knowledge, they probably could avoid this or that situation. And I want to create something that people can take home. So for example, when I teach these classes, I teach diabetes self-management classes, I teach life skills classes, and when people are at the classes, they're engaged. They want to go home and put all these things into practice. But then, like we said earlier, life happens, and then they have to wait until there's another class or what have you. I want to create this DVD program or this video program that people can take home. And whenever they have a question or something happens, they can go back to it, sort of like recharge themselves. So that's what I'm hoping to use as a vehicle. That is what I'm hoping to use as a vehicle to raise funds.
That's a great idea, because a lot of people need coaching. You can tell anybody about anything, and they won't necessarily put it into practice in their daily lives. But if you try to keep them plugged in and remind them and coach them, eventually, it takes, 90 days to change a habit. Some people say 21. I think it's 90.
I agree with 90.
To develop a good habit and a change, whether it's eating better or saving more money or working an extra shift to build that emergency fund, or watching a video to motivate yourself when you're having a bad day. What uplifts you, or I have a mentor, and he always tells me, when you're having a bad day, call up one of your good clients. They're always happy to hear your voice, and it'll lift you up a little bit and keep doing what you're doing, because you know what you're doing is important and impacting people's lives. So if I can impact somebody's life, that's my goal, and I feel like I'm accomplished. So when you ask about, what are my big dreams, I like to travel, and I want to see my kids be, happy and follow their dreams. I think that would make me more happy than anything. But if I help someone, it makes me feel good, and I feel like I've gotten there, what I accomplished.
You feel good inside. You feel useful.
I do. I do. Yeah.
That's what I do. I tell people all the time, if I made all this money, I would still do what I'm doing, and I would probably do it for free. So but people tell me that I try to do fundraising. I'm not the best at that, okay? And I'm not the best at that because I'm not money driven. People tell me you need to take financial classes, you need to learn how to do this, you need to learn how to do that. I'd never think about the money. Money is a necessity to make things happen, to keep your life balanced, to have like a cushion in case life happens. But I've never seen it as a driving, motivating force. And I guess when you're trying to raise funds, then I guess you have to have that kind of mentality.
Yeah, people say money isn't everything. But on the other hand, if you think of the biggest world problems out there, whether it's clean water or whatever it is, I could buy a lot of clean water wells with money. So it kind of does matter. If you don't have money, a lot of the time, lots of people have time to volunteer, but what a lot of organizations need is money to pay the bills, so they can keep doing the good work that they do. So
I see your
money
point.
Matters in a way.
In a big way.
Right. Not
way.
Greed and not necessarily luxuries, but for some basics, money matters, right?
Money is very important. I guess I'm afraid to cross that line into wanting, because sometimes you can get lost and not find out. I told you earlier, I had my home, my investment property, I had achieved the American dream. And then the depression, recession, whatever they call it, came in, and things went away. And now I'm older and wiser. Today I would prepare better.
Yeah, you need a plan.
You need a plan.
You need a good plan, and you need sound advice so that when bad times happen, you can ride through those bumps. And that's what I try to teach people as much as possible. But, you know, if we had met earlier.
I know. Where's my time machine? Okay, I need a time machine.
I know.
But I know you now, and I'm building something. God willing, I will accomplish this, and I will be bugging you for information because you're a smart lady. I mean, before I met you, I kept hearing your name doing all these good things. So I want you to be in my circle. I want to become useful to your circle because good things are coming, big things are coming, and I know that I cannot do it alone.
Absolutely. I think community work is important, and I think we should all be connected in one way or another. If somebody's good at something, we should pick their brains, and I'm not good at everything, so I need help as well. So I'll definitely be needing your help in one day soon, I'm sure.
I'm happy to help.
Same. So I think we should, you know, share our contacts and try to help each other in whatever ways possible.
Indeed. We are coming close to the end of the program, and time has flown by because you're such an interesting lady to talk to. So is there any message that you'd like to send to the community of Nashua?
I love Nashua. I've seen it grow from 20 years ago to now when I was young with no children, and how the downtown has developed so beautifully thanks to a lot of people who worked hard on those things. I'm not responsible for any of those things, but there is a great group of people downtown, Paul Shea and Tom Lopez and a bunch of other people I'm forgetting, I'm sure. But they've all worked so hard downtown and made it beautiful and inviting.
Yes.
I just hope that we can hopefully work on our school systems. And I know the goal for Nashua is to try to attract more young people. So I know there was talk about a community arts program center somewhere in Nashua. And maybe a downtown hotel or something like that, or bed and breakfast. But I hope more than anything is education. Knowledge is power, and when you have a really well-educated community, you can get a lot of progress out of those people who can think out of the box possibly and bring some great ideas to our city and have some smarter people around them implement them. So.
I agree 100%. Sonia, thank you so much for coming to my program.
Thank you for having me.
I'm honored that you
Wonderful.
came.
I'm
Right?
glad.
It's been a pleasure.
Same.
Okay, and thank you for being with us. As you can see, this lady is very special. Okay, so join me in appreciating her work. Thank you again for your time, and we appreciate it. As you know, this program is for you, for the community of Nashua, and anyone else that can watch the show. If you have any suggestions, feel free to let me know. And you have my contact information at the end of the show. With that, I once again thank you. I wish you a good night, a good day, whichever time you're watching this program. May God bless you, your friend, your CHW, Rafael Calderon.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.